Chapter 1. Good Woman versus Bad Woman. The difference men learn too late. And when I say too late, I don't mean after a bad date. I mean after years, after money spent, after peace is lost, after confidence drained, after you've been turned into a version of yourself you don't even respect anymore. Because this isn't really about women. This is about discernment. Most men aren't losing in love because they can't get a woman. They're losing because they keep picking the wrong type of woman and calling it chemistry. They pick based on looks. They pick based on how she makes them feel. They pick based on excitement. They pick based on validation. And then they act shocked when their life gets chaotic. So this video is going to give you clarity, not stereotypes, not hate, not bitterness. Real world differences you can actually observe. Because the hardest truth is this: a bad woman isn't always obvious. Sometimes she looks like the best thing that ever happened to you in the beginning. That's why men learned too late. If you've ever ignored red flags because she was beautiful, like the video because you're not alone. Subscribe because Love Delusion is about saving men from expensive lessons. And comment discernment if you're done choosing based on impulse. Let's start with the first big difference. A good woman adds to your life. A bad woman subtracts from your life. And that sounds simple, but most men don't measure relationships like that. They measure how much they want her. They don't measure what she produces in them. So, let me slow that down. A good woman makes your life more stable. You sleep better. You focus more. You feel respected. You feel like you can build. A bad woman makes your nervous system live on edge. You're always trying to read her mood, always trying to fix something, always trying to avoid conflict, always feeling like you're one mistake away from punishment, and men call that passion. That's not passion. That's stress. That's your body telling you danger. Now, a lot of men won't accept this because they've been trained to chase drama. They've been trained to confuse chaos with chemistry. So they reject good women as boring and chase bad women because they feel alive until the bad woman makes them miserable. Then they finally understand. Too late. A man meets a woman who's calm, feminine, and consistent. She doesn't play games. She likes him. She's supportive. But he feels like something is missing. He doesn't feel the rush. So he leaves her. Then he meets a woman who's unpredictable, hot and cold, sometimes sweet, sometimes disrespectful. Sometimes she wants him, sometimes she disappears. Now he's obsessed. He can't stop thinking about her. Andy calls it love. But what he's really experiencing is a dopamine addiction to uncertainty. He spends months trying to win her. He finally gets her. And once he has her, the chaos doesn't stop. It becomes his life. Now he's exhausted. Now he's reacting instead of leading. Now he's broke, drained, and emotionally numb. And then he thinks about the calm woman, and he realizes she wasn't boring. She was peace. That's the lesson men learn too late. If you're the type of man who gets bored with calm women, you don't need a more exciting woman. You need a better nervous system. You need to detox from chaos, because peace is not boring. Peace is the foundation of everything you want. Now let's talk about the real differences. Not surface level, not good girls versus bad girls. The real differences are in behavior and values. Difference number 1, a good woman respects you when you're not watching. This one is everything. A bad woman is loyal only when it benefits her image. A good woman is loyal because it's who she is. When you're not around, she protects your name. When you're not around, she doesn't flirt for attention. When you're not around, she doesn't act single. A bad woman needs constant external validation. So she will always keep a backup plan, always keep orbiters, always keep attention sources because her self-worth is external. A bad woman can look loyal as long as you're providing, as long as you're giving, as long as you're present. But the moment you're busy, the moment you're stressed, the moment you're not performing, she starts seeking attention elsewhere. That's why men get blindsided. They didn't choose a woman with loyalty. They chose a woman who liked benefits. Now, here's the opposite. A good woman is loyal through seasons. When you're winning, when you're grinding, when you're stressed, when you're tired, she's consistent. And consistency is the loudest form of loyalty. Difference number 2, a good woman adds peace. A bad woman adds anxiety. A bad woman will have you constantly second-guessing yourself. You'll find yourself asking, did I do something wrong? Why is she acting like this? What does she mean? Why is she mad? That constant mental noise is not love. It's stress. A good woman communicates clearly. She doesn't punish you with silence. She doesn't weaponize her emotions. She doesn't turn everything into a power game. A good woman wants solutions. A bad woman wants control. Now let me ground that with a first-person example. I've seen men become shadows of themselves in relationships with bad women. Not because the woman had magical power, but because every day was emotional warfare. One day she's loving, next day she's cold, one day she's praising you, next day she's insulting you. That emotional volatility trains you to chase approval. And once you're chasing approval, you're no longer leading. Now you're auditioning. And once a man becomes an auditioning man, his masculinity gets drained. That's why the bad woman is so destructive. Difference number 3, a good woman supports your purpose. A bad woman competes with it. This is one men don't recognize until they've lost years. A good woman understands you have a mission. She doesn't see your purpose as a rival. She sees it as part of the relationship. She supports it. She encourages discipline. She respects your time. A bad woman competes for attention. If you're working, she gets mad. If you're focused, she accuses you of not caring. If you're building, she creates drama to pull you back into her emotional world because she wants to be the center, not your partner. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. A bad woman doesn't want a man with a mission. She wants a man who orbits her. And men don't realize they're being pulled into orbit until they look up and realize their life has stopped progressing. If this chapter is already making you think about a woman you chose wrong, like the video because awareness saves years, share it with a man who's currently blinded by beauty. Subscribe because the next chapter will go deeper into the signs, how a bad woman tests you, how a good woman behaves under pressure, and the subtle differences men ignore in the honeymoon stage. Snorts. Chapter 2. Men don't lose because they can't find a good woman. Men lose because a good woman doesn't always feel exciting, and a bad woman usually feels like a movie. That's the trap. The bad woman feels like intensity, passion, chemistry, danger. The good woman feels like ease, stability, peace, warmth. And most men choose the movie because they have never been trained to value peace. So in this chapter, we're going to break down the early stage signs, the stuff that shows up in the honeymoon phase before the mask falls off. Because the truth is, bad women don't show their worst behavior on day one. They show it when they get comfortable. They show it after you invest. That's why men learn too late. So let's go through the differences that appear early if you're paying attention. If you've ever said she switched up, like the video because this chapter explains why. Subscribe because Love Delusion teaches you to see patterns before they cost you. Comment early signs if you're ready to stop getting blindsided. Let's begin. Early sign number 1. How she reacts to boundaries. This is the cleanest test on earth. A good woman respects boundaries. A bad woman challenges them not because she's strong, because she wants to see how much she can control. So pay attention. If you say, I can't do that tonight, I have to work. A good woman says, okay, baby, handle your stuff. A bad woman says, oh, so I'm not a priority. Now notice what she did. She turned your discipline into guilt. That's manipulation. A woman who manipulates your emotions hates boundaries because boundaries remove control. Now here's where men mess up. Men confuse passion with disrespect. They think a woman arguing is fiery. They think a woman being jealous is love. They think a woman reacting emotionally means she cares. No, a lot of bad women care too. They just care selfishly. They care in a way that wants ownership, not partnership. So boundary reaction is the first sign. A woman who can't handle your no is not a safe woman. Early sign number 2, how she treats you when she's upset. This is huge. Every woman gets upset and that's normal. The difference is how she handles it. A good woman communicates. A bad woman punishes. A good woman says, hey, this bothered me. A bad woman says silence, or she becomes cold, or she disappears, or she starts posting, or she starts flirting, or she starts testing because she wants you to chase. She wants you anxious. She wants you to feel what she feels. That's childish. A good woman doesn't want you anxious. She wants solutions. A bad woman wants leverage. Now let's ground this with a story. A man starts dating a woman. Everything is great. One day he doesn't reply for 2 hours. She gets mad. Instead of saying, "Hey, I missed you," she punishes him. She replies short. She acts cold. She makes him feel wrong. Now the man starts overcompensating. He starts texting more. He starts explaining. He starts apologizing for nothing. Now she learns something. He is easy to control. And once she learns that, she begins building a relationship dynamic where she is the authority. Now he's no longer leading. Now he's managing her emotions. That's what bad women do. They create emotional labor. Good women create emotional safety. Early sign number 3, how she speaks about men. This one exposes everything. Listen to how she talks about her ex. Listen to how she talks about men in general. A good woman might have pain, but she takes accountability. A bad woman has nothing but blame. All men are trash. My ex was narcissistic. I always get done wrong. That is a red flag. Not because she shouldn't feel hurt, because she's showing you a pattern. She never reflects. She never learns. She never grows. That means when she hurts you, she will justify it. Bad women always have a reason, always a story, always a victim narrative. Good women have honesty. They can say, "I made mistakes too." That ability alone is a green flag. Early sign number 4, how she responds to your success. This is a scary one. A good woman admires your progress. A bad woman resents it. A good woman says, "I'm proud of you." A bad woman says, "So you're too busy for me now." Bad women compete with your mission. Good women support it. This is where a lot of men get destroyed, because a bad woman will start fights on your most important days. She will create drama right before your meeting, right before your travel, right before your grind. Because subconsciously, she wants to test, will he choose me over his purpose? If you choose her over your purpose, she will respect you less. That's the twisted part. Bad women want control, but they don't respect what they control. That's why men lose. Now, the next sign, early sign number 5, how she handles attention from other men. This one is massive. A good woman shuts attention down. A bad woman collects it. A good woman doesn't need orbiters. A bad woman needs them like oxygen. So if you're dating a woman and she has 100 guys in her comments, best friend guys she texts daily, constant DMS she responds to Snapchat streaks with random men, a phone full of male attention, that doesn't automatically mean she's cheating, but it does mean she's addicted to attention. And attention addiction is one of the biggest predictors of disloyal behavior because eventually you won't be enough. No single man can compete with endless validation. Now here's where men get delusional. They think she's just friendly, but no, she's harvesting validation. And if you choose a woman like that, your relationship will always be unstable because she will always crave more. Now, the good woman, she doesn't need that. She gets her validation from self-worth, not the internet, not orbiters, not exes. Now, the last sign for this chapter, early sign number 6, how she treats your masculinity. A bad woman tries to weaken you subtly. She tries to control you. She wants to domesticate you. She will mock your boundaries. She will mock your confidence. She will tease your ambition. She will shame your standards. Good women respect masculinity. They don't try to compete with it. They want to complement it. This doesn't mean you dominate her. It means she respects structure. She respects leadership. She respects discipline. And she feels safe inside it. If this chapter is making you realize you missed obvious signs before, like the video, because discernment is a superpower, share it with the man who keeps getting surprised by toxic women. Subscribe because the next chapter will go deeper into the biggest trap. Why bad women feel so addictive, why men ignore red flags, and how to stop confusing chaos with love. Chapter 3. Now we're going to talk about the most dangerous part of this whole topic. Why do men keep choosing bad women even after they've been burned? Why do men knowingly ignore red flags? Why do men get warned by friends and still chase? Why do men call toxic women the love of my life? Because bad women are addictive, not because they're better, because they trigger your nervous system. And most men are not in love with the woman, they're addicted to the emotional spike she creates. That's why men learn too late. They don't realize they're not dating, they're gambling. If you've ever gone back to a woman you knew was bad for you, like the video because you're about to understand why you couldn't stop, Subscribe because love delusion breaks addictions, not just relationships. Comment addicted if you're done being controlled by chaos. Let's go deep. Bad women feel like high stakes. A good woman feels predictable. A bad woman feels uncertain. Uncertainty creates dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical of anticipation. That's why you think about her nonstop. That's why you replay conversations. That's why her texts feel like a drug, because your brain is hooked on unpredictability. Sometimes she's sweet, sometimes she's cold, sometimes she's affectionate, sometimes she's distant, sometimes she's yours, sometimes she feels like she could disappear. That creates high stakes, and the high stakes feel like love to a man who confuses tension with chemistry. Now the bad woman becomes a casino. Every text is a slot machine pull. Will she respond? Will she be nice? Will she be cold? Will she choose you today? That's not love. That's a dopamine trap. And most men don't realize it until they're emotionally bankrupt. Now let's ground this with a story. Third person story. A man meets a woman. She's beautiful, she's exciting, she has an edge. The first few days, she's obsessed.